The faint bruising beneath the white bandage should have been invisible against Catherine Wright's dark skin. Just another detail Edward Park chose not to notice about the woman who cleaned his Mayfair penthouse each week. But when she flinched at the sound of his footsteps on Christmas Eve, something fierce and protective surged through him. He'd destroyed men's empires for less than the fear flickering in her brown eyes. "Who did this to you?" His voice carried that particular stillness he used before ruining careers. Catherine's fingers trembled as they rose to touch the gauze covering her left cheekbone. "No one, Mr. Park. I simply fell on the ice yesterday." Edward moved closer. She stepped back. That small retreat, that instinctive recoil, ignited something in him that had nothing to do with the financial empire he'd built through ruthless precision and questionable connections. For the first time in 20 years of controlling half of London's underground economy, Edward Park felt his carefully maintained control slip. "Don't lie to me." The words hung between them as snow began falling outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and Catherine wondered when exactly her invisible life had become so dangerously visible. Catherine had cleaned Edward's Kensington penthouse for 8 months without truly seeing him. He existed as a presence. Bespoke Savile Row suits, the scent of sandalwood and expensive whiskey, quiet footsteps on Italian marble, an aura of danger that lingered in rooms after he departed. She knew the essential details. He paid triple the agency standard, never left disorder, and expected complete invisibility. Invisibility was Catherine's particular expertise. 31 years of being overlooked had taught her how to move through spaces without disturbing the air itself. She made herself smaller in lifts, quieted her breathing around wealthy clients, perfected the art of existing without being perceived. Today, that practiced invisibility shattered like dropped crystal. She'd covered the damage as thoroughly as possible. Foundation 4 shades too light, because that's what Boots carried in her price range. The bandage hiding the worst of the swelling where his ring had split the skin. Her supervisor at Elite Domestic Services would terminate her contract if she appeared unpresentable. And Livy needed new school shoes. The rent on their Brixton flat was due in 6 days. So Catherine came to work on Christmas Eve. The penthouse was silent when she arrived at 2 o'clock, her usual time. Edward was never home during her shifts, a small mercy she'd counted on today. She moved through the expansive living area with its panoramic views of Hyde Park and the London skyline beyond, the city sprawling beneath like a kingdom. His kingdom. She'd heard the other cleaners whisper. Edward Park owned half the luxury properties in Mayfair and Knightsbridge, controlled import businesses that existed in carefully maintained grey areas, had connections that stretched from Seoul to the City of London's financial district. The restaurants and property holdings were legitimate. Everything else existed in shadows Catherine preferred not to examine. She didn't care about his business. She cared about the £400 weekly that kept Lily fed and their flat heated. She was dusting the bookcases, leather-bound volumes in Korean and English, untouched and pristine, when she heard the private lift chime. Her heart lurched against her ribs. He was never home early. "You're still here." His voice came from behind her, accented but refined, each syllable precisely chosen. Catherine turned slowly, angling her face away from the light. "I apologize, Mr. Park. I'll finish quickly and leave. Look at me." It wasn't a request. Edward Park didn't make requests. She raised her eyes and watched his expression transformed from distant politeness to something sharp and focused as a blade. He crossed the room in 4 strides, handmade Oxford shoes silent on the marble. Up close, he was devastating. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that catalogued everything, black hair styled with effortless precision. The top buttons of his white shirt were undone, revealing collarbones and the edge of what looked like a tattoo. "What happened to your face?" His hand lifted toward her cheek, then stopped, hovering, waiting for permission Catherine didn't know how to grant. "I fell yesterday. The pavement was icy near the tube station." The lie tasted bitter. "I'm perfectly fine." Edward's eyes narrowed. In 8 months, she'd never heard him raise his voice, but the quiet in him now was more frightening than any shout could be. "You fell." He repeated each syllable with weighted disbelief. "And the bruises on your wrist." He nodded toward her left hand where fingerprint-shaped marks darkened her brown skin despite the long sleeves of her uniform. Catherine pulled her sleeve down sharply. "Mr. Park, I really must finish my duties." "Sit." "I can't. I have 2 more houses this evening and Father Christmas won't wait for—" "I said sit." Softer this time, but absolutely inflexible. She perched on the edge of his pristine cream sofa, wrong in every conceivable way. Her discount store uniform, her second-hand trainers, her damaged face in his perfect space. Edward stood before her, hands in his pockets, studying her with an intensity that made her skin warm, despite the December chill. "Tell me his name." "There's no name to tell, Mr. Park." "Catherine." The way he said her name, careful, like something precious, stopped her breath. He'd never used her name before. She'd assumed he didn't know it. "I've built my entire career on reading people. You're terrified. That bandage is fresh. Someone hurt you, and recently." She stood abruptly. "With respect, Mr. Park, my personal life isn't your concern. It became my concern the moment you walked into my home injured." He stepped closer, and she smelled sandalwood and something darker, single malt whiskey perhaps, or smoke. "Is it a boyfriend?" "No." "Husband?" "No." "Then who?" Catherine met his eyes, saw genuine concern there mixed with something that looked like barely restrained violence. "Why do you care? I am just your cleaner." Something flickered across his face, surprise possibly, hurt. "You think that's all you are to me? Isn't it?" Edward was quiet for a long moment. Snow fell steadily outside the windows now, muffling the city sounds. "I notice everything in my space, Catherine. 8 months ago you started bringing flowers, inexpensive supermarket flowers that you arrange in my kitchen when you think I'm not watching. You reorganize my books by color rather than alphabetically because you believe it looks better. You open the windows exactly 3 inches because you've determined I prefer fresh air but dislike drafts." Her throat tightened. She thought herself completely invisible. "You hum when you work. Old soul songs. Your grandmother's favorites, I suspect, because sometimes you sing words about going home to Jamaica." He tilted his head slightly. "You're not just my cleaner. You're the only genuine thing in this apartment." Catherine couldn't breathe properly. "Mr. Park, the name. Give me the name of whoever did this." "I can't." "Can't or won't?" "Both." She grabbed her cleaning caddy. "I should leave."
His hand caught her wrist, the unmarked one, gentle but absolutely firm. "If you leave now, you're refusing my protection. Whoever hurt you will do it again." "Your protection?" She almost laughed, except nothing about this felt remotely amusing. "You don't even know me. I know you have a daughter, 6 years old, I believe. I know you work 4 houses daily to afford a flat in a neighborhood you're frightened to walk through after dark. I know you're stronger than anyone I've ever encountered." He paused, jaw tight. "And I know I won't allow anyone to hurt you again." The lift chimed. Edward's expression shifted instantly, the concern vanishing behind cold authority. A young man emerged, Korean, impeccably dressed, deferential. "Sajungnim, we have a situation with the shipping." The man stopped, seeing Catherine. Edward spoke rapid Korean, his tone dismissive. The man bowed deeply and retreated immediately. "Catherine." Edward's voice drew her back. "Stay. Have dinner with me. Tell me what happened." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you're Edward Park." She gestured around the penthouse with its museum-quality furnishings and million-pound views. "And I'm nobody." His hand lifted to her face, thumb ghosting over the edge of her bandage with devastating gentleness. "You're wrong. You're the first person I've wanted to truly know in 20 years. Catherine's phone buzzed. Lily's school. The Christmas pageant was ending soon. She pulled away. I have to collect my daughter. She was in the lift before Edward could respond, but she felt his eyes on her throughout the entire descent, heavy and searching, and impossibly dangerous. That night, lying in her narrow bed in their cramped Brixton flat, with Lily asleep in the next room, Catherine touched the bandage on her face and wondered what it meant that Edward Park had looked at her like she mattered, like she was visible, like she was worth protecting. 4 days passed. Christmas came and went in their small flat, with Lily's excited laughter over the few gifts Catherine had managed. Boxing Day arrived with its gray skies and empty feeling. Catherine returned to the penthouse on her regular schedule, half expecting him to have reconsidered, to return to their previous careful distance, or worse, to have replaced her with another cleaner who wouldn't complicate his world. Instead, she found him sitting at his dining table, paperwork spread before him. Waiting. You came. He sounded genuinely relieved. It's Thursday at 2 o'clock, my regular day. It's also your day off. Most agencies close between Christmas and New Year. I need the money. Sit with me. Mr. Park. Edward. He gestured to the chair beside him. Please. The word unraveled something in her chest. Catherine set down her cleaning supplies and sat, maintaining careful distance between them. Edward pushed a cup of tea toward her, proper English breakfast tea, in a delicate porcelain cup, steaming and fragrant. I had my solicitor make discreet enquiries, he said quietly. Catherine's blood went cold. What? About you? About who might wish to harm you? He held up a hand before she could protest. I was exceptionally discreet, but Catherine, if someone is threatening you, I can help. No. She stood abruptly. You can't do whatever you're planning. This isn't your situation to resolve. Then whose situation is it? Yours? His eyes flashed. You're working 12-hour days just to survive. Someone put their hands on you. That makes it my concern now. Why? She demanded. Why do you care? Edward stood, rounding the table until they were face to face. Because when I look at you, I don't see a cleaner. I see someone who brings light into this mausoleum I've constructed. I see someone who sings like she still believes in joy, despite everything attempting to crush it from her. You don't know nothing about me. Then tell me. His hand lifted to her face again, that same hovering gesture, seeking permission. Tell me everything. This time, Catherine didn't pull away. His fingers brushed her cheek, feather light, tracing the edge of the bandage. The touch was so gentle, it hurt more than the original blow. His name is Marcus, she heard herself whisper. My ex, Lily's father. Edward's hand stilled against her face. Where is he now? I don't know exactly. He left when I was pregnant, came back 2 weeks ago, demanding money. Said I owed him for what he called his investment in a child he never wanted. Her voice cracked. He became angry when I refused. Did he threaten your daughter? The protective fury in his voice made her look up. Edward's face could have been carved from stone, but his eyes burned. He implied things, Catherine admitted, about knowing which school she attends, about how accidents happen to children on their way home. Edward's jaw clenched. He pulled out his mobile, typed rapidly in Korean, then pocketed it. That threat ends today. What are you planning? I'm handling it. Marcus will forget you exist. You can't just make someone disappear because... Catherine grabbed his arm. Edward, whatever you're planning, don't. I won't have that on my conscience. There won't be blood. His hand covered hers. There will simply be a conversation. Marcus will understand that certain people are under protection, that touching you or your daughter means consequences he cannot afford. I don't want your help. Too bad. You have it regardless." He pulled her closer, and suddenly they were breathing the same air, occupying the same impossible space. "I'm finished pretending you're invisible. I'm finished pretending I don't count the hours until Thursday at 2 o'clock. Her heart hammered. "This is madness. You're you and You're the woman I think about when I should be focusing on business. You're the reason I started returning home early on Thursdays." His thumb stroked over her knuckles. "You're the only honest thing in my life. You barely know me."
"Then let me know you properly." He bent slightly, bringing their faces level. "Have dinner with me. Real dinner, not me ambushing you while you work. I have Lily. Bring her." Catherine blinked. "You want to meet my 6-year-old daughter?" "I want to meet everyone who matters to you. I want to understand what makes you hum those songs. I want—" He stopped, something vulnerable crossing his features. "I want to matter to you the way you've begun to matter to me." The lift chimed. Edward cursed in Korean, but didn't step back. Another man emerged, older this time, speaking urgently in Korean. Edward responded with sharp words that made the man pale and retreat immediately. "I have to handle something," Edward said, turning back to Catherine. "But tomorrow evening, dinner, my restaurant in Soho, Hanel, 7 o'clock, I'll send a car." "Edward, I can't afford to—" "You're not paying. You're my guest." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles that sent electricity through her entire body. "Say yes, Catherine. Let me show you what it feels like to be truly seen." She should refuse, should maintain the careful distance between their worlds, should protect herself and Lily from the dangerous orbit of Edward Park and whatever shadow empire he controlled. But when he looked at her like she was rare and precious, when his touch made her feel cherished instead of invisible, when his voice wrapped around her name like a promise she'd forgotten to hope for. "Yes," she whispered. Edward's smile transformed his face entirely, made him look younger and almost boyish. "Tomorrow, then." He was gone before she could reconsider, leaving her standing in his perfect penthouse suite, hands still tingling from his kiss, heart racing with equal parts terror and anticipation. That night, Lily asked why Mummy was smiling at nothing. Catherine told her they were going to dinner at a fancy restaurant. She didn't mention the man with dangerous eyes who'd somehow seen through her invisibility and decided she was worth protecting. She didn't mention that every instinct screamed this would end in heartbreak. She especially didn't mention that for the first time in 6 years, heartbreak seemed like a risk worth taking. Hanel occupied a corner building in Soho that whispered old money and older secrets. Catherine stood outside with Lily, both wearing their Sunday best, which still looked shabby against the restaurant's elegant facade of dark wood and subtle gold lettering. "Mom, are you certain we're allowed in there?" Lily tugged at her dress, a hand-me-down from the church charity shop that Catherine had carefully altered. "We were invited, darling." Catherine squeezed her daughter's hand, fighting her own doubts. The door opened before they could knock. A hostess in an elegant hanbok bowed slightly. "Miss Wright, Sajang Nim is expecting you." They were led through the main dining room, all subtle lighting and wealthy patrons in designer clothing, to a private room at the back. Edward stood when they entered, and Catherine's breath caught. He wore charcoal gray trousers and a black shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing muscled forearms and the edge of an intricate tattoo. Casual elegance that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. "Catherine." His eyes swept over her, warm and genuinely appreciative. "You look beautiful." She flushed, suddenly conscious of her discount store dress. "I look beautiful," he repeated firmly, then crouched to Lily's level. "And you must be Lily. Your mum talks about you constantly." Lily's eyes went wide. "She does?" "Constantly. She says you're the cleverest girl in year 1. Year 2, actually," Lily corrected solemnly, "but I read at year 4 level." Edward's smile was genuine. "Then you and I will get along perfectly. I collect first edition books. Do you enjoy reading?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, and just like that, she was chattering about her favorite stories, while Edward listened with apparent fascination, asking thoughtful questions, treating her observations seriously. Catherine watched them, heart squeezing at how natural Edward was with her daughter. No condescension, no forced interest, just genuine engagement with the 6-year-old's perspective. Dinner was a revelation. Course after course of Korean dishes Catherine had never tried, each explained patiently by Edward. He taught Lily how to use chopsticks properly, laughing when she dropped rice repeatedly. He told stories about growing up in Seoul, about his grandmother who taught him to appreciate fine food and strong women. "My grandmother would have admired you," he said to Catherine, refilling her tea with careful attention. "I'm not particularly strong. You're raising a brilliant daughter alone. You work 4 jobs. You face down threats when they endanger what you love." His eyes held hers. "Catherine, you're the strongest person I've ever encountered." Lily excused herself to the toilet, leaving them alone for the first time all evening. The air shifted immediately, tension crackling like static electricity. "Thank you," Catherine said softly, for being kind to Lily." "I'm not being kind, I'm being honest." Edward leaned forward. "She's extraordinary because you're extraordinary." "Edward, I meant what I said yesterday about wanting to know you, about you mattering to me." His hand found hers across the table. "I know this is fast. I know our worlds don't logically fit together. But Catherine, I haven't felt this alive in years." She should pull away. Instead, she turned her hand over, lacing their fingers together. "I'm frightened. Of me? Of what you make me feel, of what happens when reality intrudes." She met his eyes. "You're Edward Park. I've heard the stories about your business dealings. I know what you are." "What am I?" "Dangerous, powerful, completely beyond my reach." His thumb stroked her palm. "You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who makes me want to be better than what I've become. Someone who makes me question every choice that led to this life." His voice dropped. "Someone who makes me believe I could be more than my reputation." "Edward." Lily burst back in, shattering the moment completely. But Edward didn't release Catherine's hand immediately, and when Lily noticed, she grinned like she'd discovered a wonderful secret. They stayed for 2 more hours. Edward ordered dessert, pat bingsu, that made Lily's eyes light up with delight, and told more stories. He asked about Catherine's childhood in Manchester, listened to her talk about her Jamaican grandmother's cooking, her dreams of perhaps opening her own small cleaning company someday, one that paid fair wages. "Not just cleaning," he said thoughtfully, "a service that actually values its workers, that treats them with dignity and respect. It's just a fantasy. Dreams become reality when someone believes in them strongly enough." His eyes held a promise. "I believe in yours." The drive home was in Edward's car, a sleek black Bentley driven by a silent bodyguard who maintained professional invisibility. Lily fell asleep against Catherine's shoulder, full and content and happy. "She likes you," Catherine murmured. "Good. Because I plan on being around considerably more if you'll permit it." "This is madness, perhaps." His hand cupped her face gently, thumb brushing over where the bandage had been. The bruise was fading now, yellow-green instead of purple. I'm finished pretending I don't want this, want you. People will talk. Your world and mine, they don't. My world is whatever I say it is, and I say you belong in it. The car stopped outside her Brixton building, the shabby exterior making Edward's jaw tighten visibly. He helped her extract Sleepy Lily, then insisted on walking them to the door, despite Catherine's protests. Tomorrow, he said at her doorway, come to the penthouse, not to work, to see me. Edward. He kissed her then, soft and searching, a question more than a demand. Catherine's free hand fisted in his expensive shirt, pulling him closer, even as her mind screamed warnings about impossibility and consequences. He tasted like possibility and danger, like everything she'd trained herself not to want. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. Tomorrow, he repeated. Tomorrow, she agreed breathlessly, and watched him disappear into the night, taking her common sense with him. Tomorrow arrived with chaos.
Catherine was getting Lily ready for school when her mobile rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Ms. Wright? A woman's voice, professional and cold. This is Detective Inspector Morrison, Metropolitan Police. We need to speak with you regarding Marcus Williams. Catherine's blood froze. What about him? He's filed a formal complaint alleging harassment from someone connected to you. He's also claiming you've made false accusations about domestic violence. The floor tilted beneath her feet. That's not accurate. I never filed anything about... We need you to come to the station today for an interview. Catherine's mind raced. She told Edward about Marcus. Edward had made calls. Oh God, what had he done? She dropped Lily at school and went directly to the penthouse, bypassing her usual schedule entirely. Edward answered the private lift dressed in workout clothes, hair damp, looking unfairly gorgeous and completely unconcerned. Catherine, I wasn't expecting. He stopped, seeing her face. What's wrong? What did you do? Her voice shook. The police rang. Marcus is claiming harassment. What exactly did you do? Edward's expression shuddered. I had a conversation with him, as I promised I would. What sort of conversation? Because now he's lying to the police about me. And he's lying because I made absolutely certain he understood what happens if he comes near you again. Edward approached her carefully. The harassment claim won't hold up. I have solicitors who... You have solicitors? Catherine stepped back. Edward, I cannot be involved in whatever you did. I have Lily. If social services believes I'm connected to criminal activity, I could... She couldn't breathe properly. I could lose her. Understanding dawned on his face, followed by something like horror. Catherine, no, that won't happen. I made certain. You made certain? Her voice rose. You don't get to make certain of anything in my life. You don't get to fix my problems with whatever criminal connections you maintain. I was protecting you. I didn't ask for your protection. I never... She stopped, realizing the truth. I never asked for anything. You just took control like I'm some damsel requiring rescue by the powerful crime lord. Edward flinched. That's not what this is. No? Then what is it exactly? Because from where I'm standing, you're playing hero while I'm the one who will face the actual consequences. She laughed bitterly. You have money and power and connections. I have a daughter I could lose if social services decides I'm involved with organized crime. You have me. His voice was fierce. You have my protection, my resources, everything I can offer. I don't want them. The words exploded from her. I want my simple life where I understand the rules, where I clean houses and raise my daughter and stay invisible because invisible is safe. Invisible is dying slowly. Edward grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. You think I don't see what that life costs you? You're drowning, Catherine. I'm attempting to throw you a lifeline.
I don't want your lifeline. I want—" Her voice cracked. "I want to not be terrified that loving you will destroy everything I've built." The room went absolutely silent. Catherine realized what she'd said, watched Edward's face transform completely. "You love me," he whispered. She tried to take it back, couldn't form the words. "It doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters." He pulled her close, and she went, despite everything, burrowing into his chest like she could hide from the world there. "Catherine, I will fix this. The police situation will disappear. Marcus will never trouble you again. I swear on everything I am." "That's precisely what frightens me. Everything you are includes things I cannot be part of." His arms tightened around her. "Then I'll change. You can't change what you are." Catherine pulled back to look at him. "Edward, you're the head of whatever organization this is. You have responsibilities, people depending on you, an entire world I don't understand. So help me understand yours. Let me in completely. Let me—" Her mobile rang. The detective again. Catherine pulled away to answer, and Edward's expression hardened at whatever he heard in her voice during the brief conversation. When she disconnected, he was already making calls in Korean, his tone sharp and commanding. Within 20 minutes, he had arranged a solicitor to meet her at the police station, someone to collect Lily from school, and apparently Marcus's complaint was in the process of vanishing entirely. "It's handled," he said finally. Catherine stared at this man who could reshape reality with a few phone calls, who looked at her like she was precious beyond measure, who'd somehow become essential to her happiness in just a few short weeks. "I need time," she said quietly, "to think, to determine if I can actually do this." Pain flashed across his face. "How much time?" "I don't know." "Catherine, please don't—" She was already backing toward the lift. "Just—" She left him, standing in his perfect penthouse looking lost for the first time since she'd met him. The ride down felt like falling, and Catherine wondered if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, or if the biggest mistake was falling in love with Edward Park in the first place. 6 days of silence. Edward didn't call, didn't text, gave her exactly the space she'd requested. Catherine should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt hollow, going through motions like an automaton. Work, Lily, sleep, repeat. Marcus's complaint had indeed vanished precisely as Edward promised. She should have been grateful. She was mostly terrified of how easily he'd made her problem disappear, of what that casual demonstration of power meant about his world. On the 7th day, New Year's Eve, Lily asked why they weren't seeing Mr. Park anymore. "It's complicated, darling." "Do you miss him?" "Yes." No point lying to her perceptive daughter. "Then why don't we see him?" Lily's eyes, too old for 6, studied her mother carefully. "Is it because he's rich and we're not?" Catherine's heart broke. "It's because his life is very different from ours." "He made you smile, Mom. You don't smile much anymore. I liked when you smiled." That night, Catherine couldn't sleep. She kept replaying moments. Edward's hand on her face, his fierce protectiveness, the way he crouched to Lily's level and listened like her daughter's words genuinely mattered, the way he kissed her like she was everything that mattered in his world. Her mobile buzzed at 2 in the morning. Edward's message was simple. "I miss you. Tell me how to fix this." She stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Tell him it's impossible. Tell him they're from completely different worlds. Tell him she's not strong enough for his life. Tell him she loves him anyway. Before she could respond, someone knocked on her door, urgent, insistent knocking. Catherine's heart seized. Late-night knocks were never good news. She grabbed her mobile, ready to dial 999, and peered through the peephole. Edward stood there, in rumpled clothes, hair disheveled, looking nothing like the controlled businessman and everything like a desperate man. She opened the door. "What are you doing here? It's 2 in the morning." "I can't do this." He pushed inside, pacing her tiny living room like a caged animal. 6 days, Catherine. 6 days of pretending I can function without you. I can't." Edward, please keep your voice down. Lily is sleeping in the next room. I'll be quiet. He wasn't quiet.
I've spent 20 years building an empire, 20 years making ourselves untouchable, unreachable. Then you walk into my life humming soul songs and arranging cheap flowers, and suddenly everything I've built feels completely empty. You barely know me. I know everything that matters. He crossed to her in 2 strides, cupping her face in both hands. I know you sacrifice everything so your daughter can have better. I know you see good in people, even when they don't deserve it. I know you think you're invisible, but Catherine, his forehead touched hers, you're the most visible thing in my entire world. When you're not there, everything goes gray and meaningless. Tears burned her eyes. I'm frightened. So am I. Terrified, actually. Because you've become my weakness, and in my world, weakness gets you killed. But I don't care anymore. I'd rather die vulnerable with you than live safe and alone. Your world. My world can adjust, will adjust. I don't care what people think, what complications arise, I'm Black, Edward. You're Korean. That matters to some people. Not to me. But to others. To your organization. To society. To anyone who has a problem with us has a problem with me. His voice turned to ice. And problems with me don't last long. That's what terrifies me. The casual way you discuss violence. The way you can make people disappear with a phone call. Would you rather I'd let Marcus continue hurting you, threatening Lily? His grip tightened slightly. I won't apologize for protecting what's mine. You're not mine, aren't you? He pulled back to look at her directly, and his eyes held everything raw and exposed. Because I'm completely yours. Every dark, complicated part of me belongs to you now. And I know that's not fair. I know I'm dragging you into something difficult and potentially dangerous. But Catherine, his voice cracked, I can't lose you. I won't survive it. Edward, I love you. The words hung between them, raw and honest and terrifying. I love that you're strong and stubborn and refuse to accept help even when you desperately need it. I love that you make me want to be better than what I am. I love how you love your daughter with everything you have. I love your cheap supermarket flowers and your off-key humming and the way you reorganize my books by color. They look better by color, she whispered, crying now. They do. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. Everything looks better when you're in it. My apartment, my life, me. Everything is better with you. Catherine took a shaky breath. Let me love you. Let me take care of you and Lily properly. Let me be the man you make me want to be. What if it's not enough? What if the differences between us are too great? Then we'll fight for it together. He kissed her, soft and pleading. I'll leave my world entirely if you ask me. No. She pulled back sharply. I won't ask you to abandon who you are. Then what do you want? Catherine looked at this powerful man reduced to vulnerability in her shabby Brixton flat, asking her to save him the way he tried to save her. She thought about Lily, asking why she didn't smile anymore, about how invisible she'd felt before Edward looked at her, like she was real, like she mattered. About how love was always a risk, but some risks were worth taking. I want you, she whispered. All of you, even the complicated parts, even the frightening parts. She grabbed his shirt, pulled him closer. I want you to teach me Korean. I want to learn about your world while you learn about mine. He kissed her deep and claiming, lifting her completely off the ground as she wrapped herself around him. They broke apart breathless, hearts racing. I want you to meet my grandmother in Manchester, she continued. I want Lily to have someone who shows up consistently, who doesn't leave. I want to wake up beside you and not feel like I'm trespassing in your life. You're not trespassing. His voice was fierce. You're home. My apartment is home now because you're in it. I'm home because you see me. Edward, marry me. Catherine froze completely. What did you say? Not immediately, not tomorrow, but eventually. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips with devastating tenderness. Marry me and let me spend my entire life proving you're the best decision I ever made. Let me love you and Lily. Let me be yours completely. You're absolutely insane. About you, absolutely. He smiled against her mouth. Say maybe. Give me maybe at least. Maybe. She laughed through tears. You're completely mad and far too intense and yours, he finished. Nobody touches what's mine. You're mine now, Catherine, and I'm yours. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. She pulled him down for another kiss, surrendering to the impossible, terrifying, perfect reality of loving Edward Park. A small voice interrupted from the hallway. Mom, why is Mr. Park here? They broke apart to find Lily in her doorway, sleepy and curious. Edward immediately crouched to her level, never breaking eye contact. I came to ask your mom something very important, but I should ask you as well. He took Lily's small hand in his larger one. Would it be acceptable if I spent more time with you and your mom? If I became part of your family properly? Lily studied him with 6-year-old seriousness. Will you make Mom smile again? Every single day. Will you read me stories and teach me Korean? She hesitated. And will you stay? My dad left. People always leave eventually. Edward's expression softened with something like pain. I'm not leaving. Not ever. I promise you both. He looked between them. You're my family now, and I protect my family, absolutely. Lily threw her arms around his neck without hesitation. Edward stood, lifting her easily, and reached for Catherine with his free arm. They stood there together, the businessman with dangerous connections, the cleaner who'd made herself invisible, and the little girl who'd lost too much already, forming something new and fragile and impossibly strong. I love you, Catherine, whispered Edward's shoulder. I love you both, he whispered back. My whole world, everything that matters. And for the first time in 6 years, Catherine Wright Park felt completely, utterly, perfectly seen. 3 years later, Catherine stood in the penthouse, their penthouse now, arranging flowers. Not cheap supermarket flowers anymore, but she still bought them herself, still insisted on the ritual, because some things mattered. Edward watched from the kitchen doorway, coffee in hand, looking at her like she was everything he'd ever wanted. You're staring, she said without turning around. Can't help it. You're beautiful when you're concentrating. She turned, smiled. His shirt hung open, revealing the tattoos that now included her name and Lily's in Korean characters over his heart. She wore his shirt from yesterday, bare legs underneath, completely comfortable in the space that once intimidated her so thoroughly. Lily rang from university. She got the scholarship to Cambridge. Catherine's voice trembled with pride. Of course she did. She's brilliant. Edward crossed to her, pulled her close. Like her mother. Her father helped considerably. Catherine's cleaning business had flourished with Edward's financial backing and business guidance. Fair wages, excellent benefits, worker ownership options, a model that other companies were now studying and attempting to replicate. She ran it herself, but he'd been there for every milestone, every challenge. I merely provided capital. You provided the vision and determination. A knock interrupted them. Edward tensed automatically, old protective habits, but relaxed when familiar voices called out. His business associates, now friends, had become uncles to Lily. Catherine's grandmother visiting from Manchester with enough Jamaican food for a dozen people. Lily herself home from Cambridge for the weekend with university friends in tow. Their penthouse filled with Korean and English and Jamaican patois, with laughter and love and the collision of worlds that had somehow formed something entirely new and beautiful. Edward had stepped back from the darker aspects of his business empire, focused on the legitimate holdings. The transition had been difficult and occasionally dangerous, but Catherine had been there through it all, refusing to let him face it alone. That night, after everyone had left, Edward found her on the balcony overlooking London, the city lights spreading below them like fallen stars. "Regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Never." She leaned into him, into the warmth and safety and love.
You? Only that I didn't notice the bandage on your face sooner. That I wasted 8 months seeing you without truly seeing you. Catherine turned in his arms. You see me now. Every day, for the rest of my life. He kissed her softly, thoroughly. My beautiful, strong, impossible wife. Your stubborn, flower-arranging, book-reorganizing wife, she corrected with a smile. Mine, he agreed. Completely, perfectly mine. And in the city that had once made her feel invisible, Catherine Wright Park had never felt more seen, more loved, more completely home. The snow had begun falling again outside, just like that Christmas Eve 3 years ago when everything changed. When Edward Park looked at her and decided she mattered. When she looked back and decided to be brave enough to believe him.